Now, I have no idea if that came through clean on the Twitter broadcast. And hopefully it didn't, where there's no echo of this stuff. But, and hopefully we're recording now, so if this is blown up with the audio, this has been some audio issues for live broadcast when you do this. That was Let's Go Brandon. LJB. Wait, no. LGB. It is the number 1, 3, and 5 songs on iTunes right now with different versions and different mixes. Something is afoot in the land.
I bought both of them.
You bought both of them? I love it.
They're good workout songs.
It's a good song. I mean, it's pretty. It's That's the thing. It's if you see an opportunity, you jump on that. You can become a very wealthy individual and very famous real quick. So kudos to who is that? That is Bryson Gray, featuring.
No, that's Loza Alexander. That's the Loza Alexander one.
Wait, I'm reading here on YouTube. Bryson Gray featuring Tyson James and Chandler Crump. That's not
there's
them?
There's 2 versions of this song.
Is there? Okay.
I downloaded both of them.
All right. I think it is phenomenal what has happened in that sense, because this is like something is very, very different than it was a few years ago, where you have, I mean, in the song they mentioned Kyrie Irving and Nicki Minaj, who caught a lot of flack for going against the Dem narrative. Kyrie's a bit of a pill for, when he played here at for the Celtics, and, I don't know if he was trolling with the earth was flat stuff or not, but I mean, good on him if he doesn't want to get vaccinated and do it. And we're going to get into some of the
mandates. Didn't he say that he was vaccinated, but he was against the mandate? Am I not hearing that correctly?
Hearing what correctly?
I thought he said he was vaccinated, but he was against the mandate, that he was standing up for everybody else below him.
I don't know.
I just thought it was funny when LeBron James was like, I don't know if I'll get vaccinated, blah, blah, blah. And then he bent the knee completely.
Well, LeBron's a coward. LeBron's a coward. He everybody knows he stinks, and everybody knows he stinks. I mean, because it's just like he just caves to China, caves to Nike. First of all, Nike owns the NBA. Let's not make any mistakes about this. So, or Nike owns the NBA. Nike runs it, and they have a lot of money invested in China. And when China says, don't talk about this, or if somebody says free the Uyghurs at one of your games, you have to kick them out of the stadium. And kudos to Ines Kanter, who's pretty vocal about actual social justice and putting his neck on the line, because it's like you can do the safe ones are to what we all know the liberals want to talk about. The ones where you really put your career at risk is by challenging what Nike and the NBA and going up against China, which Ines Kanter has done. But no, for Kyrie Irving, I mean, he's still getting paid, I'll say that, but I know he wants to play basketball. But he shouldn't. What do you think? What do you think about the mandates? Because we're going to get into the local ones in a minute here. But what do you think about the vaccine mandates?
I think that you're going to, I think if it's like a public government thing, you're going to run into problems where people are not vaccinated and you're going to end up firing them over vaccinations. Like, I think that that's silly. Like, you're going to fire good people over a vaccination card. And I think that's really silly. Like, and you see that, what was it, in New York in their medical system? Because I think their medical system is run by the government. We fired all these people. And the thing is like, there's a shortage of nurses and all of that. Like, why are you making that worse over
the one job where I could see a point where they say, if you work in healthcare, if you're a nurse, doctor, or nurse, I could see them saying, no, you've got to get vaccinated, because One, we don't want you getting this deadly disease. Two, even if you don't, you could get very sick from it and you'll be out for weeks and maybe longer, right? So in order to prevent that and for it, slow the spread or stop the spread within our employees at a at a healthcare facility, you've got to get that, because we can't have 20 people all get COVID around the same time and everybody's out for a month and then we're screwed. You're really short staffed, right? I could see them requiring that, and there being some logical point behind it. At the same time, if that's the only logical reason I'm seeing. At the same time, if you're going to fire those people or put them on leave, it sort of defeats the purpose of, if you want to avoid them getting sick and not being able to work. So it's really counterproductive when you take that into consideration. There is a mindset out there, Keelan. Have you seen this, where they're getting mad at people who don't want to be vaccinated because they're saying to them, you need to get vaccinated because we, the vaccinated, need to be protected from you, the unvaccinated. And I want to say to myself, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because you're vaccinated. And this has been going on for months. Justin Trudeau said it in Canada. Biden has said it publicly at events, like, we need to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. And it's like, excuse me? But this seems to be the basis of liberal policy making and blue state policy making across the board. Am I off? Tell me if I am.
I mean, I think they're referring to whether or not vaccinated people carry the virus afterward and all of that. So, like, I guess unvaccinated people would give the virus to the vaccinated people who would spread it. But guys, like, we're not seeing breakthrough cases like insane rates. You need to act vaccinated. And I think the general public to start moving forward from the end of this pandemic, and especially within the United States, we need to start acting vaccinated in order to move forward and make it seem like this stuff works. It does work, obviously. You and I are both vaccinated. We have therapeutics now. Like, we believe in, like, the science behind the vaccination and the therapeutics. So why is the political messaging behind this? And it's political messaging. We need to be very clear on. It's not trust the science at all.
It's because
their political messaging is to keep masking and, protect the vaccinated against the unvaccinated. Like, that stuff's silly. We need to have a very serious message going forward. And this is why Biden's COVID polling approvals have gone down. I mean, that's what he won on, guys. Like, that's the thing. We're talking about polling approvals, political polling. Biden's COVID approvals were 70s, like high 60s. Now it's pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen locally, because I'm with Charlie Baker is governor of Massachusetts, and recently he's going through a fight with the state police over the vaccine mandates. And it's not getting a lot of attention on the mainstream media, because they're sort of like, yeah, just make him get vaccinated. On the right, it's going to make it harder to make the case, if he does decide to run and he's going to face a primary in Jeff Deal, that why are you forcing state police to get vaccinated? First of all, one, you're not taking into consideration a few different things. One, they might have had COVID. If they have antibodies and they have acquired immunity, that counts. I know people want to ignore this, and it's just like, no, they need to get the shot. Well, no, you don't need to get it. If you had COVID, they have antibody tests. This is not following the science. This is logic. Following the science means, okay, you don't want to get the vaccine. You had COVID, get an antibody test. You have high antibodies. All right, you're clear. But also, hundreds of state workers are now, we're going to have a shortage, and you are now have to backfill those positions for what? For what? There's political capital to be spent on doing what's right, unless you honestly believe that they have to for the sake of they have to, which I don't believe that. It's going to make a much, especially with the police, who we want to support, who the Dems don't support. There's a case to be made there from the right. It's going to make it more difficult come election season. And there is, I'm not sure who's advising him on these things. And in addition to that, they extended the mask mandate for kids in schools to the end of the year. But, when previously, a few months ago, he stood up to the teachers' unions when they were barking, for months, they're like, we need to get vaccinated first. We need to get vaccinated first. And then they wanted to push homeschool. And then he called their bluff and they backed down. Where is that? Where is that balls? Where's, you have some political capital here. Spend it. The masks in schools aren't preventing anything. This is all show. We know this. Like, it's time to move on. We've been playing, we're just sort of in the limousine liberal towns and Boston imposing the mask mandates as if it's doing anything. Meanwhile, the Delta numbers, we're not even hearing anything about Delta numbers because they're all going down. We probably already reached herd immunity a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
This thing's kind of over. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
our vaccination rates are high enough in Massachusetts where I don't think this is so much of an issue anymore. So I think Governor Baker, if you're listening to this, you have some decisions to make. And you do have political capital where you can spend it on protecting state troopers and coming up with different solutions in order for trained government officials that they don't have to lose their jobs over something like this. That I think that's very silly, especially in a time where we can't really afford those gaps. So yeah, please make good decisions. So it really does affect the state more than people think. So yeah, that's my first opinion.
And also remember this: we're the normals.
Yeah.
We're this isn't AM talk radio coming from. This is like, let's move forward with the science-based, practical approach.
Yeah, we are very much not Howie Carr.
Yeah. And I think that needs to be listened to because there are grumblings. There was a poll that came out, and let's talk about that poll where Baker in a primary against Jeff Deal was 29% undecided, like high 20s supporting Baker, and then close to 50% supporting Deal. Now, a couple things on this. One, it was sponsored by a Dem polling firm. So this is essentially a troll poll.
Public policy polling is a little crazy in general. I think that they had some skewed numbers on samples and all of that stuff. But you have some political capital that you can expend here. And I think that you should probably consider that and stop listening to consultants and start listening to constituents, which Jeff and I are.
Yeah. The consultants are going to always play it safe. But the problem is within this environment, they play it
past what is either logical or what your voting base wants.
Yeah, across what's warranted. Little plug for the Patreon. We covered the Ruthless podcast and the Politico article about that over on the Patreon. So go to patreon.com/RhinoPod. Sign up there, only $1 a month for our review of that. We also touched on the happenings in the Virginia governor's race and the pathetic stunt by, my opinion, and I'm pretty sure about this, the Virginia Dems, not Project Lincoln, setting up the Tiki Torch, Charlottesville. I don't know what would you even call it? Like a fake neo-Nazi?
It's fake premise political stunt. Like
Yeah.
it was deplorable enough already. And yeah, no, I think Virginia Dems, at least some of their consulting firms did this. I think the political fallout of it was completely obvious. And I think the Lincoln Project is taking the fall to protect those people. And yeah, just deplorable, guys, all around. Good job.
Let me ask you a question. So the election, today's Sunday, we're recording. The election is Tuesday. Now,
Correct.
I want Glenn Youngkin to win. And we're
Yeah.
we're endorsing Glenn Youngkin here on the RINO
Yeah.
podcast.
We are very much fans of Glenn Youngkin. Virginia runs on Youngkin.
That's a good one. I actually like that. Do you think he's going to win, though?
I think he's got a shot.
Okay. All right. At least we're there. So many years, this Virginia governor's race where it's looked like, the Republican will have a good shot. Who is it? Gillespie? Who was the last guy?
I don't think Gillespie. Yeah, Ed Gillespie. I don't think Ed Gillespie had, or Ed Gillespie. I'm sorry. I'm like still
the teeth.
here.
Yeah.
Slurring and stuff. Anyway, I don't think Ed Gillespie had the movement that and the favorables that Glenn Youngkin has.
Agreed. I just think the Virginia governor's race we've been burned on as Republicans. It's this bellwether race, but Virginia is pretty much a blue state that won't elect a Republican governor like here in Massachusetts. We're anomalies. Like New York has had Republican governors before. Last one was Pataki. But it seems solidly blue now.
I think the difference there is that Glenn Youngkin decided to lean in on the cultural issues a little bit. And one of the biggest issues in Virginia right now is education. And, well, I mean, there's been lots of instances in Virginia, especially Loudoun County, where there are big problems with their school boards, with their school administrators. And Glenn Youngkin is leaning into that, where parents have rights. I mean, we have the Department of Justice decided to lean into this very state issue, calling parents domestic terrorists if they go and protest at school board meetings. We've now found out that the White House coordinated with the school board. It was a National School Board Association. I probably butchered that title. But they coordinated with them to write this letter. And now you see state organizations. Well, you didn't hear about this?
I didn't hear about that.
Okay, so
before they wrote the letter, they coordinated with the White House?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And now you're seeing state organizations within the school board association decide to leave that organization, and then they put out a letter apologizing for calling students, not students, parents, domestic terrorists. And so that was the big thing with Merrick Garland's testimony this past week on the Hill in the Senate, where, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, who else went after him? I mean, the testimony was pretty deplorable in general, where Merrick Garland was saying that he didn't understand the facts of the case. And they were just trying to say, like, you clearly understand. The DOJ put out this letter. Like, how do you not understand the facts of these cases? And Merrick Garland was being purposely
he was being evasive intentionally. Yeah, that's which is gross.
And Merrick Garland's son, I do have to say this, his son has a job within education where he sells CRT training, so he has a vested interest in this. And
son-in-law.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Yep. No, he has a huge financial stake in making sure that this type of nonsense and essentially racism is taught in the schools. No, the education piece is going to be a huge part of the upcoming elections, both, in Virginia and for 2022. And they're not going to back down. This is the liberals and the teachers unions. They have a taste of this power. They're going to exert it on our children. They are going to, and you have to fight back. You got to vote them out. I almost want to. I really hope Youngkin wins, because one, it'll be good for the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, and also two, we need that momentum. It's just call me pessimistic. I'm a pre-2004 Red Sox fan in this. I've just been burned so many times, getting my hopes up with it.
I think if Youngkin gets within 3, that's a GOP win for us. And that means that our base is energized. If he wins, that's an over expectation, to be quite honest. My expectation is to get within 3. If he wins, that's even better. Right now, the polling has been going towards Youngkin. Fox News put out a poll.
He was on top, right?
That had Youngkin up. And Fox News tends to skew towards Democrats. They were actually pretty accurate in the last 2 cycles. So
do you ever? Let me ask you a question, Caitlin, because I do pause sometimes and think about this. Do you ever think about that polling and who's going to vote for McAuliffe? And you look at McAuliffe, and the McAuliffe campaign pulled this grotesque racist stunt with the Tiki Torch crew the other day. You see him talking about how parents don't have a say in their kids' education. Like, he's on the record as doing this. He calls Youngkin every gross name in the book, trying desperately just to refight the 2020 election, and by calling Youngkin Trump and this and that. That's the only thing he has.
I mean, he also says that the 2000 election and 2004 election are illegitimate.
Yeah.
Like, he literally says he doubles down on this, and he's still done.
So McAuliffe is I've heard from some other of the podcasts out there that he is an incredibly charming individual, but he's a charming piece of trash. The problem
I don't consider that charming. I consider that phony.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can talk your way through a paper bag, that's fine. But if you're a phony individual, it's pretty obvious.
But there's going to be high 40s support for this guy. I don't know. I
think it's 45 right now.
But even like, who are the people that vote? Like, who are the people that look at this guy and you go, yeah, I'm voting for that guy?
Well, I think, Jeff, that Dems are really polarized, and they always have been. Like, they would vote. I mean, Bill Clinton could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and Democrats would still vote for him. I mean, like, and you can say that about Trump supporters all you want. I mean, like, good God, look at what Bill Clinton used to do, and what he used to say, and what Hillary used to do, and she used to say. And Democrats used to still support very vehemently these 2 people, and they still do. I mean, like, it's one of those things where I think it's like Dems will always vote for their politician no matter what they do, no matter how bad, because they know that there's no position of morality within politics. So why even bother?
Yeah, you're right. And we saw that today. We'll wrap up with this, that despicable piece by Michelle Goldberg. Is it where Michelle? Wait,
where she's talking about. So she was talking about how the Republicans made it about a trans issue. And
well, let's go back about the issue in the article just to give some background, in case anybody doesn't know about it. The piece that she wrote, so in Loudoun County, there was an accusation, and actually now it's been, I guess, proven. A high school student who sexually assaulted a girl in the girl's bathroom who was wearing a skirt, from what I was told, or what we've been told, was the Loudoun County public school officials tried to cover it up. And when the father of the girl who was assaulted showed up at the school board meeting, he was arrested and removed. Since then, we found out a lot more. I think reporting from the Daily Caller has dug up a lot of this. The boy was then transferred.
No, it was the Daily Wire.
Oh, excuse me, Daily Wire. Right, you're right. Daily Caller was Tucker's old thing. Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's outlet. He was then transferred to another school where apparently there's allegedly assaulted another student there.
Yeah.
So, do I have that right? Was it Michelle Goldberg who wrote that piece?
Yeah, it was Michelle Goldberg from the New York Times. So the overarching issue that she had is that the right made it about trans issues and if the kid was trans or not. I don't really give a fuck about that at all. I care about the fact that a teenager sexually assaulted a girl in a bathroom, and then school administrators decided to keep that underneath underneath the rug, and then didn't really, tell the school board, and they didn't do exactly what they were supposed to do with this case, and they kept it secret.
But
And then when
why
the
do you?
father comes to protest,
Yeah.
he is arrested, and we get a letter from the DOJ calling parents domestic terrorists for protesting. That is ridiculous to me.
It is worse what they did, but let me ask you a question, because I have my suspicions why they covered it up. Why? The question is, why would they cover up something like this?
Why?
I think because the boy was wearing a skirt and identified as trans from what we've been told from reporting. So it fit into like their worst nightmare scenario of going against their narrative. And I think, but Loudoun County is famous for these progressives and pushing, a liberal agenda, a progressive agenda, onto the students. So, why would you cover that up unless it would
It would make
major damage to your cause?
Wearing the story would make him look. The story would make the county schools look bad.
So let me ask. So let's flip it here. Let's flip it. What if it was a lacrosse bro
with a girl?
Let's just say he entered the girl's bathroom, right? You know what I mean? Like, just he's not identifying as anybody. Walks into the girl's bathroom, assaults somebody, but that individual, that boy.
For me personally, the issue is the sexual assault.
Of
if
course.
That were lacrosse bro, and if that situation was happening, it would be local news would have picked up on it, and the kid would have been
correct. Would Michelle Goldberg have written a defense of a victim blaming article about
it? She would have literally put it on the I guess spectrum of Time's Up and all of that stuff.
Yep.
Which she would have been right. The action would have been wrong, right. But we don't need to talk about when a sexual assault of a minor happens, whether or not the victim was texting with the perpetrator or not. Like, that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is that the actual assault happened.
Correct.
And that's what I have the problem with the piece. The assault happened. So why are you talking about how she was friends with him and she texted with him and all this other stuff? That kind of stuff doesn't matter here. Then what matters is that she was sexually assaulted, and we now have courts of law saying this. They're coming out and admitting it now. Like, it's one of those things where I just am like, what kind of Looney Tunes do you have to be on in order to kind of text that situation?
Yeah, you have to be a progressive. You have to be a progressive, because depending on the description of the attacker, the narrative changes, and that's disgusting. Right. And it shouldn't, but here we are. And if the description of the attacker was different, if the demographics of the attacker was different, we would have had a much different outcome publicly. And this is why it's real important that you vote for Glenn Youngkin and defeat Terry McAuliffe in Virginia and going into 2022, because this type of stuff is going to happen all over the place. The progressives are just going to keep pushing. It's not,
like, the parent should have a right to be able to protest at school board meetings in order to voice their opinions and have a say over what their child is learning. And also have a say over when situations like this happen, what is going to be the school's response on it? I mean, like, good God, Jeff, like, they covered it up. They didn't really report it as they should. I mean, this is a serious situation. And then when the father comes to protest, you arrest him? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And all of them wholesale need to be voted out. Every single one. And
Terry McAuliffe does not deserve to be governor of Virginia again.
Yeah.
He does not deserve it. The way that he's run this campaign has been disgusting. What he has said concerning your children's education is disgusting. What he said about the 2004 elections, it's been disgusting. He doesn't deserve to win at all. And Glenn Youngkin has an actual vision for Virginia to push it forward. Terry McAuliffe, I mean, like, he just wants to go back to bullshit, like they usually do. So the smart choice is Glenn Youngkin here.
All right. On that note, RINO podcast fans, we look forward to talking to you next time. Go to patreon.com/RINOpod, only $1 a month. Sign up for the Patreon there. We did a good recap of the Ruthless Variety program and the Politico article that was there. And we also talked a little bit more about the Virginia governor's race. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I hope and pray that the audio went out correctly for the Twitter broadcast. If not, we'll hopefully have it cleaned up for the YouTube. If not, then episode 36 was a wash, and I got to figure out the technical aspects. But hopefully it gets cleaned up. Anyway, until next time, let's go, Brandon.